FY25 millage rate is 6.4525, a reduction of 0. Fire rescue. The key areas of investment plan for FY25 are aligned with the mayor's 5 pillars for progress. For the education and youth opportunities pillar, there's funding to continue programs such as the Mayor's Future Ready Academy, year-round youth employment programs, youth development grants, and literacy and STEAM programs. Under the Equitable Development, Arts and Business Opportunities pillar, we look to fund the continuation of many of our economic and workforce development programs and arts programs, while adding funding for new programming, including a new citywide workforce development program and the Arts Micro Grant Program. Under our Neighborhood Health and Safety pillar, we're continuing to fund neighborhood and public safety programs like CALL, Mayor's Tree Mini Grants, and adding funding for the Safe Summer, Safe Neighborhood for All, Community Impact, and Healthy Neighborhood Store programs. For the Housing Opportunities for All pillar, there'll be funding to continue our progress on the 10-year Housing Opportunities for All agenda and provide resources for social service programs. The FY25 budget has funding for the continuation of the city employee housing, citywide rebates for rehab, citywide tenant eviction programs, and funding for a new program to assist with code violations. In our environment, infrastructure, and resilience pillar, the budget has funding for projects that protect our environment and improves our city's infrastructure. The increase in ad valorem tax is based on a 10.78% increase in 2024 property values over 2023. This chart shows the 10-year history of property tax revenues in relation to public safety costs. You can see that in FY25, the ad valorem revenues will cover all public safety costs for the city. This slide illustrates the calculation of the millage rate for FY25. The first step in the calculation is to determine the value of 1 mil. To do this, we take the gross property value for the city and then multiply it by 96%, which results in $33.851 billion in value for budgeting purposes. We then divide this amount by 1,000 and gives us the value of 1 mil as $33.851 million. The second step is to look at our FY25 general fund requirement of $393.595 million and net out the other sources of revenue other than ad valorem, which is $175 million, to arrive at the amount of required ad valorem taxes at $218.424 million. The third and final step is to divide this required ad valorem tax amount of $218.4 million, which shows as B on the slide, by the value of 1 mil, which is A on the slide, and to arrive at the 6.4525 mils required. And again, this is a millage rate decrease of 0.0150 mils from FY24. This next slide illustrates a typical tax bill for a resident of the city of St. Petersburg. The city of St. Petersburg makes up approximately 30% of this homeowner's tax bill, or a total tax bill of 30 cents for every ad valorem tax dollar paid by the property owner. The school system with its 2 components of their tax bill makes up 35%, and Pinellas County makes up 22%. The balance of the 12% is made up of the various other taxing authorities like EMS, SwiftMud, and the Health Department. We'll now move into a discussion of changes to the FY25 budget since City Council approved the tentative budget 3 weeks ago at the first public hearing. This information is included in more detail in Attachment B, Recap of Changes, and there has been only one change since the tentative budget was approved. This change is in the Pier Operating Funds budget and is a reduction in budget in the amount of $300,000 for the Pier's 5th anniversary celebration events. In this next section, we'll give a quick overview of the FY25 budget using tables, charts, and graphs. These tables are included in the FY25 budget in brief, which has been posted on the city's website. The total operating revenue budget for the city is $908.86 million. Charges for services make up the largest revenue category at $390 million, or 42.9%, followed by taxes at $288.1 million, or 31.7%. The FY25 operating budget for the city is $901.9 million, and is about 9.5% higher than the FY24 operating budget. The Water Resources Operating Fund increased by 9.6% from FY24 from $202.4 million to $221.9 million. And the General Fund budget and reserves increased by 8.2% or $3.646 million to $394.5 million. The total general fund revenue budget is $393.595 million, and the general fund revenue comes from various sources as illustrated on this chart. The largest single source of revenues are taxes, which includes the ad valorem property taxes, and this amount is $288.123 million, or 73.2% of the revenue budget. And intergovernmental revenues, which include the half-cent sales tax, is the second largest at 11.2%, or $44.116 million. The total general fund expenditure budget for FY25 is $393.595 million. The city's general fund is categorized into 6 administrations. The single largest general fund investment made by the city is in public safety at 52.7%. And public safety includes both police and fire rescue departments. The general government administration makes up the next largest category at 19.8%. And some of the departments included in this administration are budget, finance, legal, and human resources. And the third largest general fund investment is in our quality of life type programming provided by Community Enrichment Administration at 16.8% and includes Parks and Recreation Department and libraries. This chart shows the general fund budget broken out by expenditure type. The single largest expenditure category for the general fund is wages and benefits at $261.825 million, or 66.5% of the total general fund budget. Services and commodities make up the next largest category at 20.9%, or $82.3 million. The FY25 CIP includes a total of $198.467 million in capital projects. Water resources projects account for the largest part, or $120.58 million, or 60.76%. Penny for Pinellas projects account for the next largest category, just under $40 million in projects, and 20% of the budget. The total for our 5-year CIP plan is $993.853 million. This slide shows the fund balance commitment categories that council will need to reaffirm these or other categories when the budget is adopted. However, the amounts to be set aside in each category are not determined until the FY24 fiscal year is closed and we have year-end actual results. At that time, we'll have a better idea of how much fund balance is available to allocate to each category, and the commitment categories can then be funded as part of the year-end cleanup in November. We do have a new commitment category included in this year's budget ordinance. It's a measure of financial assurance from the city to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineering and is a commitment in lieu of a performance bond for the construction of the Seagrass Mitigation Bank. So in closing, I'd like to mention that information on the city's FY25 budget is available on the city's website. And I'd also like to take a moment to thank the budget team for their hard work and for all the department personnel throughout the city that work and provide assistance throughout the budget process. Thank you, Chair and council members.
Thank you. This is the beginning of the public comment portion of the hearing. The general public shall be allowed to speak and ask questions prior to the adoption of the final millage rate and final budget by City Council. You have 3 cards?
Yes, ma'am. First 2 speakers, Madam Chair, and please go to either podium. Nathan Tupasant and Lama Alhassan, please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, my name is Nathan Tupuisan. My address is 500 2nd Street South, and I'm here today to talk on behalf of the Fund Our Futures program, as well as the Dream Defenders campaign. When it comes to what we're seeking to achieve through the Fund Our Futures, we're looking to create high-quality, accessible after-school programs for the youth in Child's Park, something that will provide opportunities that they can bring with them to various skills, professions, but also brings opportunity back to the area. In addition to that, these skills may include things like a boost in grades, mentorship, and career readiness skills. But overall, I just want to say thank y'all for your consideration throughout this process, and to also look to the Dream Defenders campaign, seeing as it seeks to achieve a lot of the well-needed reform within these high-impact areas. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
My name is Lamal Hassan. I live on Coquina Key, 5011 Starfish. And I am a part of the Bay Area Dream Defenders. As Nathan so eloquently started talking about the two campaigns that we have, the Save Our Streets from Dream Defenders and Fund Our Futures, and the importance of having those as part of the budget. And just, I know last time we did not have an opportunity to respond after the fact, so I wanted to kind of clarify some of the things that we had in terms of the timeline. So after the last budget meeting back in April, we met with Ms. Lisa to talk about the current initiative and ways that we can also incorporate these initiatives to be proactive about addressing the issues within our communities. The program that is currently available, which I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, is reactive. It only comes into effect after youth have been arrested. So we think it's crucial to be proactive, and that's where we think the funds need to be spent. So we did meet up with Ms. Lisa, and we did try to meet up with the mayor's office, and we were not able to get a meeting with anybody. So when we came in here to the first review, there were some questions from the mayor's office of why did we not hear about this? And I want to clarify that it was shared. And everyone here should have also gotten an email from us with the proposal. We have not heard any feedback yet. If we did and we missed it, please let us know. We just got one confirmation that it was there. And so I'm hoping that this does make it onto the agenda for the Youth and Family Services Committee that's coming up. And what I want to spend the rest of my time talking about is hoping that y'all also reflect on the budget, especially after the devastating effects of Hurricane Helene. We saw absolutely atrocious conditions. People lost homes, there were some lives lost in the Tampa Bay area as well. It was absolutely terrible. And I think that just goes to show how we cannot wait for the next devastating hurricane to hit our communities. We have to take our budget and think of it very seriously and start to apply the infrastructure today, because we did not have that going into this. There was not support coming from the city of St. Pete to help folks evacuate. There was some support after the fact, whether it was free food or free laundry, which is great, but people lost their homes. People were stranded. For me, it was my friends from organizations like the Mutual Aid Disaster Relief that were first boots on the ground. They were in there before some folks from the city. And so it's the fact that community members were able to get there and provide the necessary support to help feed, give water, and the necessary medical equipment that folks. But yeah, just consider Hurricane Helene.
Next speaker, Madam Chair, Bo Macy. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council. And I have no other cards after that, Madam Chair. Never mind.
What was that I needed to say again? Sorry.
Your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Bo Macy, 2420 8th Avenue North, St. Pete, Florida, 33713.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Bo Macy. I'm an organizer with the local Tampa Bay area Dream Defenders. It has been my privilege to work alongside my peers to get this program in front of you for the simple fact that our youth deserve a chance to grow without fearing for their lives because of gun violence. Our community's safety and security must be a tantamount priority to our leaders. But when Dream Defenders talk to local residents about what it was that would make them feel safer from the threat of gun violence for themselves and for their children, the overwhelming response was not increased police presence and it was not increased arrest. Instead, what we heard most of all was that there was a lack of youth and young adult programming in their communities. Without a place for young people in St. Petersburg to go, and without often stable, affordable housing to depend on, they often turn to the streets and then to unaddressed violence. What youth need is an opportunity to engage in programming around St. Pete in a safe and fun way, and the Fund Our Future program assists with this. We must be there for our youth by allowing accessible, affordable programs, and to do that, the city must be ready to actually invest into these youth, into these youth programs. Otherwise, we condemn our children and young adults and neighborhoods to the same ongoing violence without any substantial solutions, only a series of arrests and large gaps in our communities. That cannot sustain a city. We have lost too many to gun violence in our streets recently and over time, and we cannot pretend that it's enough to remove bad actors without addressing underlying needs. As a voter, I am listening. Thank you.
Next speaker, Madam Chair, is Yordanis Mola. Please go to either podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address City Council.
Hi, my name is Yordanis Mola. I live at 2000 Gandy Boulevard, apartment 5, North, St. Petersburg, Florida, 33702. Like a lot of my colleagues here today, we're also speaking out in support of the Save Our Streets proposal that we have sent. Here I'm representing as a Dream Defender member. I'm also representing as a St. Pete resident who have lived here for about 4 years now. And I know that this is a topic that we've discussed throughout various city council meetings over the past year, but just wanted to again echo of the details in our proposals, and the purpose of the proposal is to really be proactive and to share the support. Some of the comments that we have gotten from people in Shaw's Park and in areas surrounding is a lack of accessibility, people who are working multiple jobs, or people who don't have transportation. So we could use some of that funding for more advertisement, for maybe a small bus to be able to gather kids, just making sure that preventative programs are accessible to people who want them and that they know that it exists. And also I wanted to mention that as Lemma had mentioned, we would love to meet with anyone on City Council who is interested in hearing more from us, and we've extended those meeting requests, so we hope to hear from you guys soon in the next coming weeks. And I also wanted to mention that we've shared our program with other chapters in other cities in Florida, and there is an appetite for preventative youth program measures across the state of Florida, and it would be really great for the city of St. Pete to be a beacon in Florida and to show a representation of what that could look like, and so that we can get more investment in youth programs all across the state. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention that we understand that there's a committee meeting happening in the next couple of weeks with the YFS committee, and we hope it gets added on the agenda, and we'd love to meet with anyone for any questions beforehand. Thank you.
More speakers, Madam Chair.
Okay. The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Now we will have council discussion. Councilmember Montanari.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by thanking Liz and her team for all the hard work putting this together. As the public knows, the budget is the most important thing that City Council does, and we start the process with a meeting of City Council priorities when it comes to the budget. I wanted just to review just my thinking when it comes to the budget. I always start off a budget priority, my budget priorities with a millage rate reduction, so I'm glad we were able to do that. And then I want to make sure that our reserves are adequately funded. And I always want to put $1 million into the Economic Stability Fund. And I was glad we were able to get that done too, because that Economic Stability Fund is there for just this case that we're facing right now after a major hurricane. We were briefed earlier in the meeting today about almost 11,000 homes that were flooded in the city of St. Petersburg, including 146 homes that were destroyed. That's going to have an effect on our tax base, and I want to make sure that we are always thinking about are being fiscally prudent when it comes to making sure we can fund our government. My next set of priorities is public safety, making sure our police and fire departments are funded, and then everything else that I put forward is all infrastructure. And I'm glad that we've been able to increase in a lot of areas of our budget the infrastructure spending. And then the last thing I put in is I always want to make sure that we plant trees in our city because trees affect our quality of life, and I always want to put money in the budget to plant 1,000 trees a year. So I was glad to see that on the peer operating line item that we reduced that by $300,000 that was allocated for the drone show. And for the people in the audience and the people at home, the city had set aside $725,000 for the five-year anniversary of the pier, which I thought was not necessary, and that was before the hurricane. And I made a motion to just line that item out, and didn't get support for that. So I'm glad we got a reduction of $300,000. A few weeks ago, I requested some detail of a breakdown of the cost of the pier celebration. We still have $325,000. If you set aside $100,000 for the fireworks demonstration for the 4th of July and other celebrations, which I don't want to touch, but we still have $325,000, which I would like to see moved into our community enrichment department. I know that our parks have been hit hard, and a lot of infrastructure relating to our parks have been hurt by this storm. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to allocate $325,000 from the Pier Operating Fund to the Community Enrichment Fund.
Madam Chair, if I could, I'm going to sound like a broken record like last time. I apologize. So the script here, Councilmember, you can certainly make that motion. It's slightly out of order just based on this very rigid script we have to follow to align with Florida statutes. So now we're on 7, so all of these things can be discussed. The actual motions to amend the budget appropriations ordinance should happen down in step 11 on attachment A. So anything is fair game for discussion. But the reason for this is that, of course, if anything came up in discussion that would cause a millage rate change, that's the reason for the discussion now. But assuming that is not the case, obviously, in this situation, the announcement of the final millage and some other things should happen before you actually get to the formal motion to amend.
Okay, well, thank you for that. I will wait until we get to step 11 and make my motion, and I'll yield the floor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Henricks.
Thank you, Chair. And Jackie, thank you for giving us that update. Again, this is such a very tedious, exact process that we have to follow. And so the conversation I'm going to have is not about amending the budget, but I am going to be discussing what I mentioned earlier today about providing the high water vehicles to the fire department. During the storm, I went to Station 4 and I had a conversation at the fire station kitchen table with the people that are on the ground that are going and responding to all the calls of people that are stuck, that can't get out. And not just with one shift, I had it with various shifts. And there was a consistent request for a high water vehicle. And it's something that I think we really need to take into consideration to do. There should not be a situation where you have people that are being saved in neighborhoods, elderly women being put in a stormwater truck that are made to carry sand and not people. That's what was going on. And my request is for $300,000 for purchasing a high water vehicle. I spoke with administration. They can move money from the supplemental appropriation they could do a supplemental appropriation from the unappropriated balance of the equipment replacement fund. So they can put this, so they can get the appropriate vehicles. So when these things happen, and it doesn't have to be, by the way, a hurricane or the level of water that we saw. This could be the flooding that happened September 5th or whatever, where they go out. And they have the ability with these trucks to have for people that are disabled, to get them in there. So that makes a huge difference in terms of saving people. So based on the conversations I've had, that's what I am gonna ask for. If administration wants to chime in on this, and if there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But I think it's really important because it's like needing a generator during a storm. It's better when you have the generator there than trying to get it during the storm. You're not gonna get it, and trying to borrow something from another department. So I think it's something that we need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Chair. If I could just comment on that. Obviously, we understand everybody wants to support our first responders right now, especially with the storm that we've had. We do think consideration of high water vehicles is appropriate. We would prefer, however, to maybe go to a committee meeting, show you the equipment we have now, talk about it, see if this is the best use of the funds or if there's some other thing that maybe would be of better use for first responders. So, certainly the appropriation is at your discretion. We can appropriate funding from the equipment vehicle fund if you prefer to do that and you would like to do that. But we would prefer to talk about it in committee.
And I appreciate that, and I had that conversation with administration. My concern is, when I spoke to people who are actually doing this on the ground, they've been needing this for a long time, and it hasn't happened. And so we had a storm. They had to save people and use stormwater trucks and not have the appropriate equipment. And if you're gonna get something, this is the time to do it. And frankly, when we go look at the study that we just did of management for the fire department, you will see some of the comments that are in there in terms of not getting the appropriate equipment. So I think it's pretty apparent that given the situation and given the feedback, more than ever, this is a time where we should be giving the equipment and not to just set it for another committee meeting. I can't imagine they can't use a $300,000 piece of equipment to save people out of floodwaters. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you, and thank you, Liz, for the presentation and all that you and your team have done to get us to this point. Regarding the reduction of the allocation for the Piers 5-year anniversary, so it was a $300,000 reduction. Where did that go?
So it goes to the Piers fund balance. The Pier operating fund, it's a separate fund from the general fund.
Okay, so it still stays with the pier.
Correct.
And we have, Councilmember Hanowitz had the request for the high water vehicle, which is that amount. And I'm sorry, Councilmember Montanari had asked for some funding for our parks. And I didn't catch what that amount was. And also, are we talking about using the $300,000 reduction to go towards something, or are we talking about taking additional funds from the remaining $425,000, which personally I still think is a lot. I would love an answer from Councilmember Montanari, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yes, I wanted to reduce the expenditure down to just $100,000, just for fireworks for the pier celebration. We received a memo on September the 14th from administration, and they've got $100,000 for fireworks for the 4th of July and other celebrations. But there's an additional $325,000.
Okay, so then we still have the $300,000 that would go to the pier
Yeah, it would go to the Piers fund balance. It wouldn't be available in the general fund for other expenditures like Parks and Rec. We do have separate funds for certain reasons. The revenue goes in, and it has to be used for certain things.
Right.
And it is a subsidized fund, but because looking at for future years, we're required to keep a certain amount in the Pier operating fund balance. And a lot of the stuff we're using this year is kind of a one-time use of fund balance. So to keep the subsidy down in future years, we wouldn't want to reduce the subsidy in FY25. So anything that would be reducing that Pier anniversary would stay within the Pier operating fund balance and wouldn't be available for any general fund type activities.
Chair, if we could, at any time you deem appropriate, of course, we're concerned about the parks as well, but we do have some significant funding coming from previous storms reimbursement. And if council members would like to hear from Administrator Jeffries on the money that we are expecting for parks, we can provide that information.
Thank you. I would like to hear more about that as I'm thinking of these different proposals and ideas, because I know that our Parks Department doesn't have like this big fat budget anyway, and they do a lot with a little as it is. And I know that there are still issues from the storm a year ago that haven't been fixed yet, or trees that have not been replaced yet, things like that. So they're starting to get to where they're falling behind, and I don't want that to happen. We always need to make sure that we're taking care of our parks, you know?
So Administrator Gertis, since you asked the question in regards to that, I do know, and I'm looking at the script that we're following, and I don't want to try to mute council members' requests in regards to amendments on the budget. So what we're going to do is follow the process. Either the motion fails or it passes. So,
I haven't requested an amendment. I'm asking for information.
no, I was talking about Councilmember Montaneri, so stay over there, and I'm over here. So if you want to go ahead and have that piece, because I heard what your request was, and I heard what Jackie actually recommended as far as getting to number 11 for him to make that motion for that amendment, but I've also heard your request. But if Councilmember Montaneri wants to make that that amendment request, I'm going to allow him to do that. So I did hear you. Thank you for that offer. But I am going to continue to let the council members, as well as Councilmember Hanowitz, with her amendment request. So,
We'll provide the information at any time
okay,
at your discretion.
okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, Councilmember Driscoll, I needed to answer.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from Mr. Jeffries, please. Is he still in the room?
Good evening. Mike Jeffries. I'm the Community Enrichment Administrator. As Councilmember Driscoll did mention, we did have some damage that we were able to file with FEMA on the waterfront, our waterfront park system. We had sod and a number of trees that were damaged by the salt water that came over the seawall and didn't flush out. Happy to report that we have received word that we're receiving about $515,000 to restore the sod and the trees that are there on the waterfront. So, and I know that we've shared with some of you offline that we are having some drainage issues in the Flora Wiley, Elwa Rouse area. And we are working with engineering and stormwater to figure out, is there an infrastructure issue that's causing the flooding, the water to not recede. Candidly, we don't want to replace the sod until we get that problem solved first. So that's our first priority, and we've been working with Administrator Tankersley's teams to figure out what the overall solution is. So about $515,000 coming for sod and trees from the previous storm. We did suffer some damages, as did a lot of the other departments here during this most recent storm. And as we always have, we will file those claims either through FEMA or in some cases through our insurance as well, because of the size, the amount of the damage that's occurred.
Okay. is there, I'm thinking about the fact that we have several playgrounds that are closed right now, and it says until further notice. Is that, are the playgrounds damaged to the point where they're included in that request, and you feel confident about getting the funding, because that is not cheap?
So the playgrounds are part of this most recent storm, and what we had happen is we had some of the subsurfaces took on water and actually swelled and caused issues with the playgrounds. And so we are working with our vendors now to get those repaired. Our goal is to not have any playgrounds offline, obviously, but again, that is something that ultimately we would hopefully get reimbursement from FEMA for damage from the storm.
Okay.
But to answer your question, I think this might be what you're getting at. We are not planning to leave those playgrounds offline waiting for the FEMA reimbursement, because we all know that that could take a significant amount of time. We will repair, do whatever we need to. We have certified playground inspectors on staff that are candidly right now working on cleaning up debris and getting some of that going on for us. So we will shift their task now that we have the contractor here in town, and we will start to inspect those playgrounds and tighten those up as best we can. We're hoping that some of the playgrounds and some of the damage that we've experienced in the department is minor enough that we can either fix in-house or through blankets. Mayor Welch and Administrator Gertis has given us the direction to get that done with our blankets. We certainly want our amenities back online as quickly as possible.
Thanks, we do too. Thank you very much for that information. It's helpful as I can consider what's being proposed here. We received an email on September 30th with some answers to some questions from a council member. And I wanted to go back to our the funding for literacy and STEM programs. In the body of the email that we received from Liz, it states that for that programming, the $400,000 that is allocated, the last time we had a committee of the whole meeting, $100,000 of that was going to be allocated for the Clam Bayou Marine Education Center. In this, and then the rest of it was undecided. Since we had some back and forth and didn't really come to a specific conclusion on that, and I know that there's ongoing conversations with different organizations under this umbrella, I thought that the $400,000 would be allocated with our specific allocation for Clam Bayou, and then the rest to be decided. But in this email, it appears that all of the money has now been allocated, and Clam Bayou is not mentioned in this email. So I need to know about that.
It was originally 500,000, and so we moved the 100,000 specifically to Clam Bayou, so it's separate. So this is the remainder, the 400,000.
Okay. The rest of this, you know, there was a really good conversation in that committee meeting regarding our literacy programs, and two organizations in particular, the Phyllis Wheatley Rice to Read campaign, which has been funded in 2024. And then there was some talk about the great work that's being done by the Shirley Proctor Puller Foundation. And in this email, it indicates that $250,000 from the $400,000 will be allocated to the Shirley Proctor Puller Foundation. And we had not really discussed that. So that came as a surprise to me, because we did seem a little bit divided on how that money should be spent. There's another $86,000 for literacy and STEAM community grants that would be open to local nonprofits, and then $64,000 for a future careers focused residential summer camp in partnership with USF St. Petersburg campus that is currently in development. That sounds intriguing to me. I would like to learn more. I just want to confirm, I mean, 2 out of the 3 are under $100,000. And so I appreciate being informed of how part of that is being planned to be spent. But the 250,000, any agreement that we have with the Shirley Proctor Puller Foundation or any other organization would have to be brought to City Council as an agreement that we would need to vote on, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm disappointed, given my vocal support for literacy programs and funding for that, that I have not had any kind of, I haven't been informed at all of any talks with any organization other than the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read campaign. This is a large amount of funding. It is a fantastic opportunity, but we're going to have to continue this discussion on this because it's too much money and it's too important of a topic for us to just whip it from one organization to another without any real explanation to City Council. We're trying to make an investment here, and it can't be like a one and done, 1 year at a time, switching it from one to another. We have to let some of these things take root so that our children in our community can learn to read. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Vice Chair Gertis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just comment on 2 of the things that have been talked about real quick. So I just want to make sure I understand, Council Member Hanowitz, you're talking about using unappropriated fund balance in the equipment replacement fund for the high water vehicles. Did I get that right?
That's what Tom suggested, the best, the cleanest way to do it, and that it was there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I agree that that's the cleanest way to do it. And I want to have this conversation. My issue, if that's what you want to call it, is that, one, I don't even know what we would be buying for $300,000. What kind of truck? Where from? How long would it take to get here? Is 1 what we need? 9 what we need? So I struggle with that because I'd rather have all the info at our hands and would prefer especially if we're going to do it unappropriated fund balance, because you can do it right there. We could do it relatively quickly. I don't know that I'll be BF&T. I mean, I'm BF&T chair for the next 3 months. I'm certainly happy to try to get this at BF&T if you wanted it there, or if you wanted it in PS&I, obviously you could handle that. But I would much prefer that conversation in a committee and then quickly bring it to council to make sure that it's the right vehicle and the right amount of vehicles, especially with, again, I agree that the unappropriated fund balance is the way to go there. I've been a vocal proponent of using those fund balances rather than trying to move money around. And so that's my struggle there. That's a better word. Struggle. That's my struggle there. And so I just wanted to communicate that. I would be hard pressed to vote yes for that today, but I would love to have that conversation to make sure that we are prepared and we get them quickly. I just would love to understand it the whole way. The peer conversation, I just want to offer a different lens. So having sat on the TDC for the last 2 years, the biggest driver of the TDC, and I know it's not our huge worry, but we have to think about this from a full-blown county economy, has been our beaches. They're not going to be used here anytime soon. The biggest driver to visitation is downtown St. Petersburg, outside of our beaches. It's usually number 3 or number 4 when it comes to bed tax dollars. When you look at a Visit St. Pete Clearwater ad
it almost certainly has the pier on there. And in a time where we are going to need visitation outside of the beaches, I am struggling to take money away from one of the things that drives people downtown and has them stay there, not only from countywide economy, but from ours. And so, especially for a full month in a slow season. And so that's the first one. So I would just ask that we look through that lens, that we need to be thinking about this way more macro, especially after what just happened. The second is there is money allocated in there for local artists to perform at the pier, and we just made an unappropriated fund balance for local artists. I wouldn't want to offset that by taking that away. And so I'm really struggling with both of these. I get it. We want to be fiscally responsible. I want to do that. But right now, the pier and our museums are our visitation. And when you're talking about our hotels, our hospitality, our restaurants, our bars, we're going to need people to visit here. Yeah, there's lots of residents that go too. But you know they need our visitors. And the pier is one of the biggest things that does that, along with our museums and our art scene. And so I'm just not, right now, I was a proponent of leaving it at 725. I'll support it at the 425, but I won't support a motion that goes down any further. Plus, it's just going to sit in the fund balance. So we might as well try to get people to visit the pier so we continue to have a strong economy, because we know, you said it earlier, Councilmember Montanari, and I agree with you that the housing values are going to be affected. So, I would hate to two-prong that. So anyway, that's where I'm at on those two. Liz, the team, I'm always so appreciative of all the work. This year, I think more so. In the last, the three of these I've done, this is more curveballs than we normally have. And, that's our prerogative, and that's how it works. But I'm just appreciative of the entire team and all the work that you guys have done. Thank you so much. And I'll leave it there, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Hanowitz.
Thank you, and thank you, council members, for your feedback. Here's the thing. We have money that's sitting all over the place all the time that we roll over from budget to budget, okay? We just had a storm. We know what the effects are, and I heard from rank and file about equipment that they need. I just can't ignore that. I just can't go check up on them, see how they're doing, and then I hear, not just from one shift, because when I went, I was going to offer food, but they were already cooking brunch, so they invited me to brunch, so then I had to go the next day to take them food. So I heard from different people. And it was 3 times that I went, and it was consistent. So to me, you don't lose anything by putting that money there. It's $300,000 for equipment they're going to use. They are going to use. The list of their needs is so high. They are going to use it. And for me, when we see the management study and you hear, well, they've been asking for things all the time and it just doesn't happen, I just fear that we're going to push it off and it's not going to happen. And that to me just shows that we listen to them. It's $300,000. And by the way, this is a group of people that does this type of work. They're the ones that do it. They do the specialized work. They don't just do it in my district. They do it throughout. They're the team that does this. So when you hear it from the people that do it, I don't know. That's why I feel that we should do that. And I'm sure that those in administration and the chiefs can have a discussion as to what the appropriate equipment is, and they can come back to city council and do a nice presentation about the equipment that they're going to obtain with it. But they're going to get their equipment. So that's my thoughts on it and why I feel so strongly about it, because it is hard for me to go there and see that and know what they went through and hear the stories and then say, well, we just have to figure out, what exact equipment you need before we appropriate the money. I just want them to have the money. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Floyd.
Thank you. I failed to write down a note as to why I put myself on because my computer died. So, but I'll comment on the two things that have been most discussed. First, I wanted to thank Councilmember Gertis, Vice Chair Gertis, for explaining your position on the pier, because It's similar to how I'm feeling. We had a discussion this morning about economic impact in the city, and I think that our public goods and services are what really makes our city. And so I've been supportive of the Piers celebration, although I was open to a discussion about, what was on there and is it excessive? And I feel like there's been a compromise met right now, but to say we're not going to invest in the thing that is driving, one of the things that drives the most tourism into our county, it doesn't sit well with me right now, especially when we do other economic development things whose outcomes are less certain and less direct. And so that's where I'm at with the pier. And I also agree that it would be great to have a discussion about the needs and whatnot for the high water vehicle and heavy equipment in general. But I hear Councilmember Hanowitz. I think she's made a good argument, and so I don't see a reason why we can't appropriate it and then later have a discussion as well. But I do think that as of today, like, if there was a motion for that, I would be supportive. I think when you have big things happen like a storm, you have an opportunity to really assess priorities right away, and I feel like this falls into that category, and could only be positive. I mean, if not maybe it's not perfect, but it's not going to be negative. So I appreciate the perspective that was brought forward, and I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Montaneri.
Thank you. So on the pier, I just reviewed the page 110 of the budget, and so I know we had a subsidy. The subsidy is about $1.5 million a year. So Liz's explanation of reducing the 5-year anniversary, I get that. We're still going to be subsidizing the pier. And Vice Chair Gertis, I understand what you're saying. It's my point is, it's not like we're going to shut down the pier or not promote the pier or anything like that. It just seems to me, especially when I saw this in the first place, $725,000 for a 5-year anniversary of the pier. I think most people wouldn't even know that we have a 5-year anniversary of the pier. Now, people would, with all the things going on there, they would figure it out after a while. But it just seems to me like an excessive amount of spending, especially on a facility that we've been subsidizing. I do have to say, Councilmember Hanowitz brings up a very good point. Earlier today, we heard about a rescue of people at the Northeast Water Treatment Facility in a vehicle that apparently got stuck, and then they had to be rescued from the rescue. So Councilmember Hanowitz brings up a very good point when it comes to allocating funds from the equipment and replacement fund for a high water vehicle, which Fire Station 12 is in my city council district. There's a lot of rescues that go on at Shore Acres all the time, and that equipment at Fire Station 12 has to be moved out of there. And then just reviewing my priorities when it comes to the budget, when it comes to spending, public safety always comes first. And this theme seems like a need that we've heard time and time again over the years. So My position is based on Councilmember Hanowitz's discussion on this high water vehicle. I'm thinking that may be the direction that we should go. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gabbard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll start with the pier operating budget and the pier celebration. So Councilmember Gertis, you bring up a great point, because one of the things that I think most of us have heard, on social media, people have reached out to us, is the concern from our business community about the impacts of this storm and the rhetoric that will go on out there that Pinellas County is not open for business, right? And the business community is very concerned about that. Well, as we continue to assist residents on the ground level, it's kind of like now we bring our heads up and we start to look at the trickle that will happen throughout our community based upon this disaster, because this is going to take months and months and months to heal. And so I love the perspective that you brought to the conversation, because then it triggered those conversations that I've had with the business community, and I have to think about what the impact of come to St. Pete in July. We are open for business. We are here. Come spend your money. Come and support our business community. I can see that being the message, and I'm glad that it's not $750,000 anymore. I never wanted it to be $750,000, but I think when you look at, from the memo, what is outlined, what is going to be done, I think with what Councilmember Gertis has shared, I can support where we are at this point with this money, because I can see it being another layer of response to the storm. So I'm there. Now, on the high water vehicle, Councilmember Hanowitz, thank you for going to see our first responders. Thank you. And thank you for not just going once. Thank you for going numerous times and for listening to them. I don't know that $350,000 is the right number. I don't know much about these vehicles. To Councilmember Gertis's point, I don't know how many we need. I am always going to support adding additional resources, especially in our districts where life is on the line. My only concern is, what else would we be taking that money away from that potentially we have already looked at that we also need, because the need for our fleet in all of our departments is great. So could, I don't know, someone come and speak? I don't know who would be the appropriate person.
I mean, one thing I would comment on that is, again, the administration completely supports the first responders, and we've provided a pathway through the resolution to do this if City Council wants to do this. But we've been in recovery for the past week.
Yeah.
We haven't had a chance to take a breath and think about this. You heard Chief Kvasev say this morning we lost 14 police vehicles, which is equipment replacement. We lost generators. We just think it would be good to maybe just take a second, think about what the best investment is, maybe go to a committee meeting. But if you feel this is what you want to do and it's important for you to do this tonight, we understand, and we've provided you a pathway.
Understood. I mean, when it comes to our budget, I've got a meeting going on right now of 300 people or so for Riviera Bay, and they are wanting council members and city people to be there, and we can't because we're here doing our budget, right? And so everything I have thought about regarding the budget for the last week has been, how do we utilize our budget to better respond to what people need, and quite frankly, what they are going to need in FY 2025. There's going to be a lot. I mean, I've got a list that I had kind of thought of as well that I could have brought here today too, but I didn't. And now we're kind of looking at these things and going, okay, well, what about this and what about that? Well, what about our permitting department? What about our floodplain coordinator and our floodplain manager department and the staffing that they are going to need? I mean, we could sit here and start talking about putting that kind of money as a knee-jerk reaction into staffing in that department to make sure that they can fill that resident need. But I don't believe here in this moment, to Rob's point, that that is the most prudent thing to do with any of the response. I think we all need to take a breath and a beat for a minute, and then we need to have these conversations swiftly in our committee process and find where we need to fill holes in our budget, where we have money that we can do that to make the biggest impact going forward. I want our first responders to have everything they need, but I also want other departments to have what they need because our residents need so much going forward. And maybe I'll eat these words about a high water vehicle. I pray to God that I don't in the next month and a half of storm season. But today, my greatest concern is how we move forward and how we have a budget that we can move forward in every department that we are going to need resources. So for me, I'm just really on the fence about this high water vehicle, $350,000, because I want us to look at it in such a much bigger, broader than just one particular vehicle. And I hope that that is clear to administration, that I'm asking that when we can have a breath and we can have a break, that we really come back to council sooner rather than later in BF&T and have these kind of conversations.
We'd love to talk about it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Thank you. I agree on the high water vehicle. I think we do need to talk about it. I think we will find the money once we figure that out. Councilmember Hanowitz, you've started the conversation. And you're hearing the support for it. So I know we can find the money, but I think it's important that we make a statement tonight that something like this, a high water vehicle, replacing 14 police vehicles, these things are more important to us than a party. So I think I think we do need to move the money, even if it's a more general allocation than specifically for a high water vehicle. I'd like some guidance from the administration on what that maybe could look like. So the money is moved, and no one will be able to say that we approved $425,000 for a party when we've got all of these needs going on. Then we have the conversation about how we make everything happen. I hope that that could be enough. I'd love some input.
Yeah, are you talking about if we reduce the funding in the peer fund, it'll stay in the peer fund's balance. It's not available for other activities. We could fund all these. We have all the other funds have target fund balances that are there to support all these needs that we have. So, there's going to be discussions for the next couple months on needs that pop up, and they're all in different funds. And these funds, we have specific target balances so that we can cover these. So when they come up, we can appropriate them. And we do have, every council meeting is a chance to change the budget. Also at cleanup, we can do additional supplementals at that time to the FY25 budget, specifically for some of these needs. But there's other ways to fund it besides reducing the peer fund, because looking at the 5-year plan, I think we would need to keep in there, we're going to have to increase the subsidy in the next couple of years to keep the required amount in the peer operating fund.
Right, but the original proposal was to blow it all on a party.
So I think what Liz is saying is that you could make a motion to reduce that expenditure to zero, but we can't move that money out of the peer fund. We'd have to put it into the fund. We can't move it to another expenditure.
So what was being taken away? Was it just like a general increase, like with many other departments, and that was just how it was, that was what was decided, was we'll spend that additional funding on a party?
So in the current year, there was a bunch of non-recurring expenses that we're able to fund. But those, in the upcoming years, the recurring expenses will increase, the revenue's not increasing, so then the subsidy goes up. So if we have this opportunity and we don't have those non-recurring expenses this year, the recommendation would be to leave it in the fund balance so that we can keep the subsidy close to that 1.5 and not have it escalate as the costs in the fund escalate in future years.
Okay, I understand. I understand. I think you've heard us that there are some of us who do not want all of this money spent on the 5-year anniversary. I do have great respect for the point that we need to look at shining brighter to make sure that we are that everyone knows that we're open for business, and I think that's where our marketing team will be very helpful. And improvements that are already planned for the pier are going to be very helpful as well, as far as capital improvements and all of that. So Councilmember Hanowitz, I hope that we will have a discussion that you bring forward for everyone, and just know that the funding is going to be there when it's time. And I'll support whatever is brought forward regarding that today, whether it's for some kind of an allocation or if you decide to take a different approach. But I'll be supportive, and I know that this administration knows how to find money when they need it. So you can be assured that it'll be covered. Thank you.
Councilmember Mohammed.
Thank you. Just wanted to chime in really quick on the two things. So I'm definitely supportive of the high water vehicle. And either way we decide to do it, I'm supportive. So whether we do the allocation today or take our time and be more strategic with how we approach it, which I would prefer, honestly. But if I'm okay either way, but I would prefer to have that complete assessment, not do the knee-jerk reaction, really look at what's really needed and what would be more strategic for how we do it, including the high water vehicles, hearing about police vehicles that were lost, and then other needs that may have been identified during this process. So that would be my preference, but again, either way it goes, I'm supportive. And then with the peer funds, I too had an issue with the amount of funding and how significant that was. I do see the compromise. It looks like the drone show has been removed. Also hearing that, or reading that sponsorships are being sought to help even with the other costs that have been allocated. And so I'm okay with the compromise. I would be supportive of that, considering the economic impact and knowing that it is a driver to bring people to the city. And so I would support that. And then lastly, in the vein of strategic investments, I wasn't really impressed with what I saw with the literacy STEM allocations. And so I would like to, at some point, better understand the strategy behind it, because now it looks like we're just taking money from one pocket and putting it in the other. And I just don't understand the rationale behind it. And so I would like to know, like, how did we get to $250,000 for Phyllis Wheatley? I mean, not for Phyllis Wheatley, but for Shirley Proctor, and like, how did we get to that number for that organization? And then what was kind of the strategic significance of that shift?
Thank you, Councilperson Carl Lavender, Interim Chief Equity Officer for the City of St. Petersburg, and want to thank the council for your ongoing concern and question regarding how we are allocating or recommending an allocation when it comes to the literacy support in the budget. The $250,000 was the amount of money that the Phyllis Wheatley Group did receive in fiscal '24. 23, 24, and so we're just moving that same number over to this year's operating. It's a recommendation. We realize that the process will include a full presentation. The case will be made that the administration is very much committed to literacy. I think we need to move that conversation out of a deficit language, because it really is, we really truly are committed. It is the right provider for the right thing to do is the current conversation. Going from a campaign, which the Wheatley group did say, they are a campaign, into a program where the outcomes and the impact are aligned very specifically with moving the needle on literacy and learning to read. We have more capacity with the Proctor Puller Foundation. We see ourselves moving deeper into what we call a critical literacy curriculum, which we can design inside the Proctor team, away from awareness campaigns. So we see a real value in this. Dr. Brown is here to elaborate even more if you want, but it really is a move from where we were and what the administration did support in a campaign to the results of a campaign going deeper into the life of the child learning to read.
Thank you for that.
You're more than welcome.
I appreciate it, because really the piece that you, like the hook for me, was when you mentioned going from campaign to programming, because they were very explicit that the Phyllis Wheatley Rise to Read is a campaign. The going from 250 to 0 is concerning, because again, as a campaign, one of the objectives of the campaign is to work with program providers to create a strategy. And so I'm just a little concerned that now we're not going to fund the strategy development and jump right into, okay, here's a literacy partner, they're doing work, let's fund them. As opposed to like taking a moment to really work with the group who we funded to the tune of, $250,000 to develop a strategy to say, okay, what is the strategy, where did we land? And then working with them to make sure that the resources that we're dispersing will get us the impact that we want based upon the community feedback.
Right. For the record, we did offer them $50,000 to continue one strategic piece of their work, which was the navigators.
Okay.
And connecting the community to the proper literacy program would have played a role, but they declined the request because what they believed they had was a model campaign, and that model fully funded at $250 what was necessary. Okay. We're now moving that into program, as you know, and we did offer $50,000 to continue the navigators inside this year, but that request was declined.
Okay. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Seeing no further requests to speak, I'll go ahead and give my input on this before we move forward. So as far as the peer operating budget, I too am okay with what's being presented here today. Vice Chair Gertis made a very valid point because I tried to get out on the beach to see what was there, and there's not much. The flux is going to be toward the east coast of the city of St. Petersburg as far as our economic gains are going to be, so I do appreciate that look at it. And then I wouldn't call the 5th anniversary of the peer party. A party is where someone hosted and you gain nothing from it but coming and doing whatever. But the city and the businesses, the restaurants, all of those other organizations that are at the pier are going to benefit from all of those dollars that will be spent at the celebration. So it is an attractor. So I do appreciate the administration's compromise with that. 725 was a lot, and now taking it down, I would definitely support that. The high water vehicles, I solely believe in I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I support the fact that if that's something that could save a life, if we can find $300,000 for a campaign, I think we could be able to find some dollars to save lives. And I understand Council Member Hanowitz's response when she said they've been waiting and they've been waiting and they've been waiting, and we've been here for a while and we know how that works. So I would support however we would need to supply that vehicle to the fire department. Now, grant you, I too would like to know how much a true vehicle would cost and what that looks like. I don't know where the $300,000 came from. I don't know how it was guesstimated, what that looks like, but I will definitely support providing the equipment needed for that, because if nothing else, Debbie taught us waters rise fast. If something else happened, Hurricane Helene right behind us has given us, that's one, that's two, it's going to happen again. It's not if, when, it will happen again, and we know that. So I would prefer to provide our first responders with the tools that they need. Again, with the literacy campaign, I'm all about our children knowing how to read and going from campaign to program. When you look at the vast difference, and I agree, you have to start somewhere. And I look at where some of the other programs have had to start, and they have built upon that foundation to Shirley Proctor Puller started somewhere. And that particular program has the stats, it has the data, it has the captured audience, and it is truly making a difference. If you have not visited and seen that program in action, I really recommend that you do so. And it is admirable of what they have done in regards to partnerships. They've also built partnerships for that program, so all of their funding for that was not coming out of one basket. And so they have built a collaboration throughout the city to help our young people. And again, when it comes down to wanting to see a difference, wanting to measure impact, I would support the Shirley Proctor Puller program hands down, because I've seen that they haven't relied on just one source of funding. They've made it happen. They've been doing it for a while. So I do support that. So with that being said, I see Councilmember Hanowitz has a comment, and that would be, but let me ask a question before you speak to legal. So I know that you spoke that we are now going to leave council comments, and since we see we may have some amendments when we get down to 11, do I still go to number 10 first?
Yeah, correct, Chair. Now, you can continue this discussion as long as you want. It's just the formality of the motion. So nothing prevents other council members from continuing this discussion. If Councilmember Hanowitz has a follow-up comment, that's completely in order based on the script. What will come after this, after you finish this discussion, is steps 9 and 10, which are just related to the millage, and then you'll be down in 11A. And that's when you would be able to make any motions that you would like to amend the ordinance. My recommendation would be if any of those motions pass and there is such an amendment, like any ordinance, we want you to see exact things in front of you, especially for this. So typically when this has happened in the past, there'd be a brief recess if the motions pass, so that Liz and Tom could make any changes and you'd actually be able to see where the numbers change to make sure there's no confusion when you get to step 11B and actually adopt the budget as amended.
Okay, sounds good. Councilmember Hanowitz.
Thank you. And Chair, to your question in terms of how that number came up, in a conversation with Tom, we talked about what the cost would be of that vehicle. And last time he thought it was $250. I looked up an article that Tarpon Springs last year, right after Hurricane Idalia, had a meeting to discuss purchasing the same thing and getting those vehicles. So the $300,000 came up because of the difference in cost. But communities such as ours, they go through the hurricane, they don't have it, and they realize that they need it. So that's where the number came from a conversation with Tom. And I was trying to be very cognizant of not asking for something in terms of the money that was outrageous, or, trying to narrow it down as much as possible. I think, Tom, you have a copy of the resolution. Maybe if we can just give it to them so they can see it by the time we get to number 11.
And
Chair, if I could, Liz, just a second. Chair, if I could, I need to say for the record for people who are watching, we certainly understand if you want to purchase another high water vehicle, but we just had a major storm surge. And I need to say that there was no instance where somebody was stranded in water and we didn't have a high water vehicle or a boat to go to them. So we do have high water vehicles, we do have boats. We understand you may want to purchase an additional specialty high water vehicle, but I need the public to understand that. People were not stranded because we did not have high water vehicles.
And what they were saying is they didn't have the right equipment for the circumstances. They were using some stormwater trucks, okay, that were rusted, bringing on an 80-year-old woman or whoever you're bringing on. These vehicles are equipped for people with disabilities and all that. That's all. Nobody made a comment as to that people were not rescued or anything. But having the equipment, the point was made about having the appropriate equipment that they needed, and that just came from rank and file. I didn't, you know.
I
can't
appreciate
speak for them in terms of what they do, because I'm not the one that's doing this saving lives. They're the ones that are out there. So I'm just getting what they gave me and what they needed.
I
That's all.
appreciate your comments. I just want to be clear on the record. I believe there were potential insinuations made, and I need it to be clear.
Okay, and thank you, I'm sorry, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
And thank you so much for that, Administrative Girders. And so I think I heard an overall consensus of liking to have additional conversation, because again, and if it was implied that we were not able to help anyone at any time, trust and believe that was not the case. I think the argument that's being made here is if we needed it and that they've asked for it, would we be willing as a council to provide that? And so I don't want anyone to think that any council member implied that our first responders were not equipped to provide adequate service, because they did a fantastic job that we've already come to a conclusion in regards to their ability and what and how they performed throughout this. The question that I do have, and I think Amber is going, and I think this is why I really want to have more conversation about this high water vehicle, because we had storm surge. This was the first time ever, and we're going to experience flooding again. But I want to know what the difference is between the access that we have now to the height or surge of water that that vehicle will be required to access. And so I would really like to have a little bit more conversation about the high water vehicle personally, so that we can get more details about it. But again, I think it is something very important for us to consider, because if they need it, they need it. I just don't understand what that need looks like. Vice Chair Gertis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm assuming this is fiscal year 25, because technically we're in fiscal year 25, even though we haven't adopted 25. This is kind of back to our point earlier where it's like we're in a little bit of no man's land.
Well, actually, procedurally, what we'd like to do with this resolution is go ahead and pass the budget first.
Okay.
And then pass this
my
resolution
next
separately
question.
after.
That was my
So
next-
it wouldn't
So
involve any
technically, we
change of
would
the
be in
ordinance.
25.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm going to make one more comment about the high water vehicle. If you make a motion for this resolution, I'm going to support it. But I can't help but think this happening this quickly without all the information, normally, this would be something you would be against. But because it's the firefighters and first responders
And the storm.
and the storm. I'm not, that's not judgmental, please know that. It's just, it's the circumstance. That's the reason I didn't like it.
That's fair.
I totally support, I want to make it very clear, that those men and women are doing things that I don't raise my hand to do. And so, I completely understand that they're doing the hero work. By the way, just to offset, so are our stormwater and sanitation and parks and rec when they're out in the beginning of it. They're just as much first responders during these things, and that had to be said out loud. But so I'm supportive of this, but I would have been disappointed in myself had I not brought up, this is just not something I think a lot of us like to do, and the circumstances. So if this happens again, we cannot use this as the outlier.
Right.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it, Councilmember Hanowitz.
Thank you. The final millage rate for the city of St. Petersburg is 6.4525 mils, which is a 6.13% increase over the rollback rate of 6.076 mils.
0796.
Did I read it wrong? 6.0796 mils. I'm sorry, y'all, my eyes are going crazy right now. Mils. The approved resolution setting the final millage rate. This must be done before adopting the final budget and must have a separate vote. So now we're looking at the resolution for adopting the final millage rate, so I will.
Move approval resolution adopting the proposed millage rate.
Second.
The final millage.
Final, excuse me.
Second.
Okay, so we're at E5A, having a motion, it been properly seconded. Can you please open the machine for voting? Council members, please cast your votes. Seeing that all present council members have voted, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, motion to approve agenda item E5A passes 6-2, with council members Floyd and Mohammed voting no, council members Driscoll, Fix Sanders, Gabbard, Gertis, Hanowitz, and Montanari voting yes.
Okay, thank you. So now, to adopt the final budget, now we're in 11B.
Right, unless, if there are any motions to amend the budget, that would be in 11A. If there are, and they would be voted on separately, if there are no such motions, then you move to 11B.
Okay, Councilmember Montanari.
Thank you. I'm going to move reduction of $325,000 from the peer operating fund.
Second.
Okay, so we have.
Pardon me?
You're going to remove or reduce?
Reduce.
Well, isn't it the same thing?
What's your motion?
I guess I have a question.
Reduce the allocation with the peer operating fund by $325,000.
325, okay. Everyone clear on the motion?
And that's to reduce the, just want to use the language that's in the budget to reduce the amount for the 5th anniversary celebration. It'll be $100,000.
Okay. Everyone clear on the motion? All right. It's been motioned and properly seconded. Can you please open the machine for voting?
I seconded.
Okay.
Right. Council members, please cast your votes. Now that all present council members have voted, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, the motion to reduce peer funding fails 3-5, with council members Driscoll, Hanowitz, and Montanari voting yes, council members Fix Sanders, Floyd, Gabbard, Gertis, and Mohammed voting no.
Now do I go to B, since there seems to be no other motion? Okay, so,
That's correct, Madam.
Move approval to adopt the final budget.
Second.
do we have a second?
Councilmember Hamilton.
Oh, okay. E5B, can you please open the machine for voting? Council members, please cast your votes. Seeing that all council members have voted for E5B, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, the motion to approve agenda item E5B passes unanimously.
Now we're moving to E5C.
Move approval of the resolution adopting the multi-year CIP program for the city of St. Petersburg.
Thank you. The mach- Second, who second? Okay. So now that we have a motion, it's been properly seconded for E5C. Can you please open the machine for voting? Council members, please cast your votes. Seeing that all present council members have cast their votes, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, motion to approve agenda item E5C passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And
The
then
pub-
I have my motion for the, because this is the time you told me I should do it, right?
One more, I'm sorry, did I miss the publicly announced?
I was getting ready
So
to.
one more
Okay.
thing, yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Madam
The
Chair.
public hearing on the budget, the millage rate, and the budget appropriations ordinance, and the multi-year CIP program is now closed.
Okay, so now you're done with the budget, and now would be the time, if you chose to move approval of the resolution.
Can I make a comment?
Sure, you can, now you can pretty much.
Okay.
You're back to your normal system now.
I just
You can do
wasn't sure what system we're in. Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for the discussion on it. The reality is, and I typically don't do it, and you're right, council members, I don't. But you know what? During a storm, I went and I sat down with them, and that was the request. And it's hard for me to ignore, and I can't go back and say, we can't do this now. And so we will have the discussion as to the type of vehicle and all these things and all the concerns. But I think it's appropriate right now, given the condition of where we're at and what they told me to go forward on it. So I appreciate everyone's concerns, but I do think that we can address some of that afterwards if there are issues that come up we will address that. So with that said, I would move approval of the resolution approving a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $300,000 from the unappropriated balance of the Equipment Replacement Fund to the Fleet Management Department, Fleet Mechanical Divisions, for the purchase of high water vehicles.
Second.
Now that we have a motion, it's been properly seconded for E5D. Can you please open the machine for voting? Council members, please cast your votes. Seeing that all present council members have voted, can you please tally and announce the votes?
Madam Chair, motion to approve agenda item E5D passes unanimously.
All right. So now we will move to open forum. Do we have any cards? No, ma'am? Okay. Any announcements? Anybody want to say anything special? Other than the fact that, again, I am Vice Chair Gertis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This weekend is Administrator Foster's birthday.
Just saw her run away.
Did she go running for the halls?
We were getting ready to sing happy birthday.
And selfishly, just so I can play this back for her tomorrow, it was my daughter's 7th birthday yesterday. She got enough happy birthdays yesterday, but I just wanted to tell her happy birthday and that I love her. So we'll sing happy birthday for Administrator Amy Foster. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Amy. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yay. We are adjourned.
Great story, but it's not true. We needed a name, and the postmaster wanted a name. Peter DeMens had a press conference saying he was taking his train to St. Petersburg. John Williams didn't want to call it St. Petersburg, so there's all kinds of discussion. So what do you think happened after that?
I think somebody, perhaps one of the partners in that railroad enterprise, said, look, we have to name this after Peter DeMens, and so we're going to name it St. Petersburg, and you go to the post office and tell Ms. Ward that's what it's going to be. And that's probably about how it happened, as simple as that.
It's as close as it came.
this is Ray Jack's food store in South St. Pete on MLK, and we're here for the inauguration of the Fresh Pace Healthy Neighborhood Store program.
As you know, we are in an area where we have a food desert, a food disparity, and we've had a small business owner that had the ability to step up and participate in a program that actually will provide healthy food to the residents within a walking distance of their residence.
Well, this is a community neighborhood store. You know, we provide a lot of items here, you know, from fresh meats. We're mostly known for our meats here. Before, we were very limited with what we could display. So now kind of gave them a little bit more variety with the vegetables and recipes, you know, to use.
Purchasing those items in the volume that smaller stores would purchase them at is so cost prohibitive. And so this program allows for monthly grants to store owners to make those purchases so they don't have to use their reserves to do that, and in turn can sell that food at a very affordable cost to their customers coming in.
It's a real partnership with small neighborhood stores like Ray Jack's Meat Market here in South St. Petersburg, and it's funded primarily through American Rescue Plan funds. We are allocating about $1.2 million in funding to address food insecurity in our city.
We're going to have 6 by the end of 2024. This is only phase 1, and I'm so glad that they saw this area of town, this district, to have its kickoff.
It's visually appealing, it makes sense from a business perspective, and of course the community gets what they need in terms of healthy food at an affordable cost.
It looks great, the produce looks great, there are a variety of healthy choices that would appeal to young folks through seniors. Everyone ought to have access to healthy food choices.
So Bobby, I have heard the origin story of your relationship with Jamie and how that kept you here, but I don't think I've ever heard why you wanted to start the studio.
Well, you know, that's a very good question, but I think it stemmed more from, I mean, somebody told me this years later that Jamie was just trying to find something for me to do because Dave Ellis and myself, we had not fully formed what the studio would be. And Jim was out looking for a building, found this place, and we were calling it a theater, but not necessarily. And I had never run a nonprofit before. I'd worked for dozens of them, but I had never run one. And so I think it was a convergence of several things, and we just grew into it being what we now understand to be the studio, which is something David Ellis and myself never did an elevator speech or the one sound bite. It's many things. Lately, people have been calling it St. Petersburg's living room, which sounds nice. It's a home for the visual and performing arts, but it's evolved. But we never had a specific defining, we're gonna do this. It just evolved.
So a gentleman by the name of Percy Fansler had an idea of using an airplane, because back then flight was basically just a novelty, right? So a lot of air shows and stuff like that, so that he had an idea of flying from point A to point B on a schedule, just like a train. Unheard of, but who the heck would do that? Nobody was gonna fly on a plane when you had a good old train. They arranged for Thomas Benoit and his airboat company to come to St. Petersburg. Roger and Tony Janis came with them, their chief pilot and and mechanics/engineers. January 1st, 1914, they pushed that bad boy, that Benoit airboat, into the water, and 22 and a half minutes later, landed in Tampa in the world's first commercial airline flight. Would you have flown in that plane?
I believe I would have. I think I would have. When we talk about the Indian mounds, and Rui, you may think of it this way too, I think of that big sign out on Park Street that says, Panfilo de Narvaez landed here.
Everyone assumes that they landed somewhere on the Pinellas Peninsula when you can't really say exactly where. There were probably Indian mounds that covered the city from the Coffee Pot area all the way around the peninsula, up the west side of the city to, to where Seminole is today, because there's still traces and evidence of them.
So there are a couple that remain here and there, but what happened to the rest of them? How come we don't see them in more spots around town?
When the automobile arrived in Florida and into St. Petersburg, imagine having an automobile with a tire that's that wide trying to drive up down Central Avenue and around downtown, getting stuck a lot in the sand. So a lot of those Indian mounds were used by city leaders. They used it to actually pave the streets of downtown St. Pete.
That's what became of history in that regard, huh?
Exactly.
Wow.
So every time you Central Avenue and 3rd Street, when you cross Central Avenue, you say hello to the, some of the Indians that may still be there. Who knows?
Who knows?
Hi, St. Pete. Mayor Ken Welch here, coming to you with an important message about voting. The right to vote is precious. It allows you to hold your government accountable, and it's one of the clearest ways to make your voice heard. Recently, St. Petersburg has transitioned to holding municipal elections to align with national election years. That means this year, in addition to elections for president, Congress, the state legislature, and county commission, you'll also have the opportunity to vote for your members of St. Pete City Council. Save these dates for your reference later. For more information about registering, polling locations, and other important information, go to votepinellas.com. Let's vote, St. Pete. This is our first City Hall on tour for 2024. We're here at Pinellas Technical College, and it's an opportunity for the community to talk to any of our departments, from sanitation to codes to law enforcement, police, or fire, about our community, about their recommendations, their concerns, and get feedback on the spot.
Community folks who are where you're at. The City Hall on Tour is designed to put you in spaces where people live in real time.
It's also a focus on education and career paths, and that's why we're here at Pinellas Technical College. They're a great partner with us. You heard about the Mayor's Future Ready Academy, where we have 12 young people who are going through on-the-job training in various city departments like sanitation and public works.
For our Future Ready Academy, we really consist of going through each department through the city and then learning new experiences through each department and what each department consists of. So you kind of get a win-win in each opportunity. So it's kind of a lot through each department. You get to learn a lot.
We look at the city of St. Petersburg, from the historic gas plant to all of the housing developments that are going on, corridor development. Most of those are driven by the trades: plumbers, electricians, craftsmen of all kinds.
It's also a focus this year on careers and getting folks connected to career paths. We try to have these around the city. We had 4 last year. This year we'll have 3, and another one dedicated to youth. That's how we all move forward together. St. Pete, it's that time of year. Hurricane season has officially begun from now until November 30th. Now, we all know hurricane preparedness is a part of life here in St. Pete, and the best time to prepare for a hurricane is before there's one approaching. So let's all take the necessary steps together to proactively prepare for this year's season. And here are a few tips. Sign up to receive emergency notifications with Alert Pinellas. Know your evacuation zone. Review Pinellas County's hurricane guide. Avoid the lines and fill your sandbags now. Follow at St. Pete FL and at Mayor Ken Welch on social media. More tips can be found at stpete.org/hurricane. Your safety is always a top priority. When emergencies arise, we need to work together. We are St. Pete. This is Team Accelerate Day at USF St. Pete, where we have over 70 middle school students who are taking pit stops to learn about STEM and to understand how STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, contributes to the Grand Prix.
We're fortunate to be involved with the Grand Prix, and so we are creating a STEM activity for the students. I think it's a great way for students to have ownership over their learning and for them to engage with these various technologies that will be a large part of their future.
Here we're learning about the cars, and recently, well, just now, we learned about how to 3D print, put things in a 3D printer and then screenshot it so it can be turned into something else to be made.
It's just a great opportunity to be able to partner with the school districts and to have the students engage in this fun activity where they get to create things in 3D modeling software, to 3D print, and to tie it in with the Grand Prix.
We believe in inclusive progress, and even with something like the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, there's a way even in that endeavor to make sure there's inclusive progress and that everyone benefits, even our youngest St. Pete residents.
My name is Jason Hughes. I'm one of the police officers that rides the police horses. We're part of the Mounted Patrol Unit. So I ride Jacob, and I've been riding Jacob for 10 years now. We drove all the way to Boston to pick up our horses and bring them down, and we've been best buddies ever since. You get to really know the horse, and I spend more time with my horse than I do with my family. It's 40 hours a week, and probably 30 of that spent with my horse. Every interaction we have with our horses is training, either for good or for bad. We're teaching them good habits or bad habits every time we interact with them. And sometimes we have to push through groups of people to, say, get to a fight and break it up, or move a crowd out of the way to get paramedics through. And as part of that, we have a ginormous 6-foot inflatable ball that we have the horses push against. It's kind of against their nature a little bit to push into people and things. So we get them over that by making a game out of it. And they push this big, huge, giant ball to get over their fears of that. We do high visibility patrol because we really stand out and we stand 9 feet tall. It's got to be over 100 events a year where we go to large groups of people, they come interact with us, and we can see everything that's happening in the event and make sure that police presence is really felt. We also do a lot of community relations, so we do special events where we can interact with the community and build strong bonds within our community and the police department. And we also do enforcement and assist guys that are on the ground doing their jobs. I had, before my job with the police department, when I finished college, spent 2 years traveling with the Renaissance Festival doing a jousting show. My brother got me a job right out of college, and so I spent 2 years traveling the country, wearing a bunch of armor, getting knocked off a horse with a big stick. Yeah, I've had more of my time in employment been spent with a horse involved than not at this point. Everybody loves horses. So it creates that bridge. People that might feel a little trepidatious about coming up and talking to the police, they have that easy bridge. If they come over, they ask questions about the horse, they can come pet them, get a picture with them. And even today, now more than ever, those bonds between the community and the police department are vital. So we need to really build those bonds and then have the community trust us, interact with us, know that we're good guys trying to help them out.
Hay un alfiler en una orilla de una ciudad en un mapa, como una esmeralda en la oscuridad o un ojo de pelícano. Oh península de sol, mar y baños. Aquí somos tan diversos como las conchas, la flora y las muchas aves que nos visitan cada invierno. Sí, somos banh mi, empanadas, caniches, injera, roti. Somos reggaetón, rap, cumbia, trap, jazz, rock y folk. Caminemos por el St. Pete Youth Farm para encontrar todo tipo de raíces entrelazados, alimentándose de la misma tierra. Aquí hacemos espacio para todos. Mira las historias pintadas en las paredes, calles y intersecciones. Neón, prismáticas y sin miedo de hacer ruido porque el arte brilla aquí, donde pintamos el arco iris por la ciudad con orgullo y decimos gay, donde las vidas negras importan y donde una hija de inmigrantes puede ser su poeta laureada. Thank you. Hay un alfiler en una orilla, en una ciudad, en un mapa. Acércate, respira el aire salado. Mi gente, miren a su alrededor. Somos St. Pete. We are St. Pete.
I'm Dr. Tanja Williams. I am the first African American and female president of St. Petersburg College in St. Petersburg, Florida. My definition of a trailblazer is a person who has a fire burning in the bottom of their belly that they just have to get out. A person who's willing to practice courage over comfort, who's willing to step out and do something that no one has done because they feel passionate about it and they feel that they have something that they could add to it to help make things better than they are now. Being one of the very few St. Petersburg natives born and raised in St. Pete, getting a job at St. Petersburg College alone was a big deal for us. Growing up, I did not get to see African American college presidents. As a matter of fact, I don't believe I had an African American faculty member when I was going to college. So to be president was not something that I thought was in my reach. It wasn't a part of my vision. But when it came to fruition, I realized that it was such a huge honor and a huge opportunity to help others understand that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So being the president of SPC is an honor, it is a privilege, it's also a lot of hard work. One of the biggest moments of a college president is the investiture. I remember fighting tears because it's a part of my journey that my mom, who helped get me there, was not able to join me. She had passed away. She said, Tanja, you're gonna do some cool things in life. I'm not gonna be here to see it, but I know you will. And she said, don't sell your soul to get it, and don't sell your soul to keep it. And I remember standing on that stage saying to her, We did it, and I did not sell my soul. I've had a lot of people in my life who stood in the gap for me to help me do what I didn't think I could even do myself. People like Helen Callier at George's Pools. They were one of the first African-American millionaires in St. Petersburg who owned a swimming pool company. They pushed me hard to go to college, and they helped me stay in college. For those of you who are thinking, wow, I've failed 3 times, get up the 4th time. Many of us have failed. Many of us have made mistakes, but you dust yourself off and you keep going. It's all about the possibilities. Don't leave them on the table. Get up, dust yourself off, and keep trying.
My name is Michael Cotman, and this is Twin Brooks Golf Course. I oversee all of the facilities here that maintain the golf course and try to get it in pristine condition. It's a 9-hole golf course. We have a practice facility in the back, which is 3 practice holes. It's a really unique facility because it's in the middle of the city. It's really a benefit to the city because what we do here is we provide a place for play that's more reasonable than any of the other golf courses in the area. We have guys that come out here that are 80 years old. For them, this is an exercise. It's a chance to get out of the house and to do something. And for the kids, it's an opportunity to get off of the streets and to learn the game. My day begins around 5 o'clock. Make the assignments for everybody, make sure everybody's got the tools and protections that they need. So we set up the golf course, get that done, and then we'll do all of our other stuff. We'll mow fairways, we'll mow rough, we'll trim trees, we'll do hedges, and any other thing that pops up. So it becomes pretty daunting at times, but we manage to get it done, one bite at a time. So every day is a different adventure. When I got on this particular property, we didn't have fairways, we didn't have moguls, we didn't have mounds. Now we have a primary place to play where it looks like an 18-hole manicured golf course, even though it's 9 holes. There's a satisfaction that you get when the transformation process, to see it go from what it was to your vision, is so fulfilling.
What do you know about the Coliseum? That was a boom time development, wasn't it?
It was pretty much the place where people went.
Sure.
For entertainment. I mean, you hear some of the stories of the bands that played there, and it was amazing.
Most of the big white swing bands, I think, played there. And because it was in the segregation area, the counterpart in the black community was on 22nd Street South with the Manhattan Casino.
Right.
And of course, they had all the big name bands come there and play as well.
The Coliseum in the 20s and 30s was kind of like the Amalie Arena of today, where everybody who was anybody musically performed there. But didn't some of the acts perform at the Coliseum and then that same night leave and go play at the
Absolutely,
Manhattan?
they sure did. And sometimes they would gather for impromptu jam sessions in people's houses, I'm told.
That's very cool.
Yes, it is.
My name is Dominic Colangelo. I am the ground maintenance here for Treasure Island, City of St. Pete. And essentially I make sure this place stays, up and running, clean, help with any little things that may go wrong. When I come to work, the first thing I do is I blow the sand, leaves off the deck, kind of clean it up over there. And then after all that's said and done, go down to the beach, make sure everything's all picked up over there, you know, rake the area, make sure it's nice and clean. It's the start of my day. I really do enjoy my job. I get to hang out at the beach all day, meet some interesting people. It's cool. I've had a couple of people come up and they didn't realize this was owned by the city of St. Pete, so we kind of give them the story about it. Mayor John Brown donated this property to the city of St. Pete, and it was basically for the residents, for their families to come to enjoy the amenities that we had here, like the restrooms, the indoor showers, playgrounds. So he donated that to the community. Today's a beautiful day. I love feeling the wind. I love looking at the water when I drive around. It's kind of peaceful. It's kind of like I'm just by myself, getting the job done, but it doesn't feel like work. I like the freedom. You know, I like being out by the water. It's always a beautiful day, and it's, you know, something a lot of people don't get to do.
Well, there were separate facilities. It was total discrimination, really. It was just a second classness that I wouldn't want to behold be on anyone, because it wasn't humane. It wasn't human.
We African Americans could not eat at the lunch counters. We could not even sit on those green benches downtown. We were not treated equally as the white citizens in this city. In 1963, I was hired on the St. Petersburg Police Department. And when I went to work at the police station, I determined that the police department wasn't totally integrated.
The locker rooms were most definitely segregated. They were put in the corner. Patrol cars that they did have were the old ones, but maybe not in very good shape.
We African American police officers were always assigned to work in the African American neighborhood only. We could only investigate complaints from citizens of color. We could only arrest citizens of color.
You know, you're trying to enforce the law and trying to get respected or be respected, and you know, you're getting disrespected by the people you're working for.
In 1965, there were 15 African American police officers on the St. Petersburg Police Department. That includes 1 sergeant, 2 detectives, and 12 uniform officers.
They wanted equal responsibilities. They wanted to be able to police white neighborhoods like Snell Isle, like the Old Northeast. And they wanted to be able to arrest a white person and take them in without having to have an assist from a white officer.
So we 12 uniform officers started having meetings among ourselves at different one of our homes to discuss the racial attitude that was against us as the police department.
And at one point, finally, I think it might have been Fred Crawford who said, "The heck with it. Let's sue them. If they fire us, they fire us." And that's actually where that nickname came from, you know, the Courageous 12, because every one of those guys put their jobs on the line when they decided to sue the city.
On March 31st and April 1st of 1966, we went to federal court in Tampa, and Judge Joseph Lee ruled against us and ruled in favor of the police department in the city. That meant that we had lost the lawsuit. So the NAACP agreed to file the appeal for us at no cost. On August 1st, 1968, the appeals court ruled in our favor, and we had won that lawsuit. When we won that lawsuit, we had different assignments. I'm the first African-American police officer assigned to work in an all-white neighborhood. It was 100% white. We were very proud and honored because we felt that we accomplished what our mission was set out to be. We were honored at City Hall City Council meeting on September 13, 2007, and they gave us the key to the city and a proclamation, and we really thank the city for what they did for us. I never dreamed that I would see a black chief of police here in St. Petersburg. They have one African-American chief now, and they had one previously black chief before. And it's part of what we was put that lawsuit for.
We want to make sure that when people enter our lobby now, we want to recognize the doors that you walk through are the doors that these Courageous 12 open for minorities here in the St. Petersburg Police Department.
Police department in the city put a plaque in the police station with all our names and our pictures on it, and a narrative let people know what we did to be honored.
I have put into place that every sergeant and lieutenant shall read the lawsuit, and they will be tested on it to make sure they are aware of what happened, so we make sure that never happens again.
What we did help these young men that's come on the force now, that came on the force after.
I look around now, I see deputy chiefs, I see chiefs, I see majors. It sort of makes you feel good.
That is the first 4 African-American police officers that were hired on the St. Petersburg Police Department in 1949. That's the Courageous 12. When I see these 12 faces together as unity, we was closer, just like brotherhood, that's what I think of. I'm the last one of the Courageous 12 left. And I think about those 11 other officers that are going on, because we were brothers. We were just like brothers. We were so close. And I am going to carry the banner on for those other officers that are going on. But I tell the younger generation to stand up and for what you got and what you believe in, and stand your ground and don't back down. And think about the Courageous 12 as what we did. We stood our ground and we did not back down.
Talk a little bit about the Vinoy, because it, back in the day, used to be a big, major building in town that would catch people's eye right away, and they'd ask questions about it. What is this thing? The gentleman who built it was Amor Vinoy Lofner, and the story goes, and this goes into the category of lore again, I think, but he and his wife had a place on Beach Drive, right across from where that Vinoy would be built. Mm-hmm. And they were having a party that went on to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And at some point, he bet Walter Hagen, one of the era's foremost golfers, that he couldn't drive a golf ball off the crystal of his watch without breaking the crystal. And he said, if you can do that, then I'm going to build a big hotel over there. It was no big deal for Hagen. He stepped up, whack, 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 3 balls. This was in about 1923, and Lofner was a man of his word. He built that hotel. It took him about 11 months, and I believe it opened on New Year's Eve of 1925. Rui, does that sound right?
It did.
Hey, Bubba. Hi, good morning. Hey, you ready to come out? You ready for breakfast? My name's Amy DePalma, and I am a nature preserve ranger here at Boyd Hill. The specialty of my job is overseeing the Birds of Prey program. We take in permanently injured, non-releasable birds of prey, and we turn them into avian ambassadors. We take these birds all throughout the county, from the Saturday morning market to schools to assisted living facilities. When you're talking about conservation, sometimes it can be kind of a bore, but when you have a great horned owl sitting on your arm talking about conservation, people are a lot more inclined to listen, to pay attention, especially since these birds have injuries due to human interaction in some way. Conservation efforts in general are really important around the world, but specifically here at Boyd Hill because we do live in one of the most densely populated counties in all of Florida. It's really important to conserve these small parcels of land. All of these birds that we have here live throughout Florida. We also have to worry about their diet and feeding them, so we weigh them almost daily to make sure that their food fluctuates with their body weights. We also have to do medical care, but aside from me, we have 54 volunteers that help make this program run day to day. There's a lot of maintenance that goes along with these birds, and it's a group effort. It's not just me. Step up. Up. No, you want to face everyone, huh? You got an audience. They're just like people. They have good days and bad days. So sometimes when you walk in, they want nothing to do with you, and other times you're walking around the corner and they're chirping and yelling saying, "Come in here and feed me." So it's really, really, probably one of my favorite parts of the job is just interacting with these birds. Hey, Dance. Yeah, so this is Dancer. He's a red-tailed hawk. He is 19 years old. I mean, I get to spend my day in a nature preserve. So I am surrounded by nature and surrounded by nature-minded people, which really excites me. So interacting with kids and adults and just spreading my passion is really what I love about this job.
I look at Woodlawn as probably the most neighbor-friendly, kid-friendly neighborhood that I've ever lived in. It's a wonderful neighborhood to grow up in. I wish I was a kid growing up in this neighborhood.
It's a real family-oriented community, super close to downtown, and it's just kind of one of those picturesque, nice, quaint little neighborhoods.
I think what was really cool about the neighborhood is it's different compared to a lot of the other neighborhoods where part of it is on the circles. So as soon as we drove in on the neighborhood looking for a house, I just knew that this neighborhood had kind of some extra character to it.
Woodlawn has got a circular style to it, design to it, and you can see from some of these old pictures that there really is a circle or an oval to Woodlawn neighborhood.
My favorite part of the day is driving home. You turn onto our street from MLK, and there's beautiful oak trees, blooming crepe myrtles, and then there's a park. We have a park just at the end of our street. So here in Woodlawn, we have 3 public parks within our community.
We use those parks a lot for our garage sale in the fall. There's cookouts that go on in those neighborhood parks, and they become very handy.
And that's where we have all of the holiday events, all of our neighborhood events, potlucks, things like that. But then on the weekends, you can just kind of go out there and hang out. So I've worked out in the park, take my dog to the park. There's a basketball hoop for the neighborhood kids to hang out. Got it!
As the fall and into the winter and into the holiday season, Every one of those little pocket parks gets used for certain events.
Christmas caroling going on during Christmas. There's an Easter egg hunt through the neighborhood. Halloween is huge in this neighborhood.
And then Halloween, you forget about it. It is crazy around here.
Woodlawn likes to party.
So, like everything, trees come and go, and a lot of the trees in this neighborhood are laurel oaks, and they've got a time period of about 70 years in their lifespan. And we realized early on that the trees in this neighborhood were going to go away. What we did several years ago as part of a grant is got additional oak trees planted in several of those quadrant parks, just to give a little shade so it's not as hot during the summer. And I would guarantee that 50 years from now, 100 years from now, the folks that are living here in these houses will be looking at those trees, wondering who planted them, and gosh darn it, they got to be getting old. Maybe we need to think about putting some new ones in.
There's so many generations of families here, old houses, new houses, young families, families that have been here for 20 years. But amidst all that, it's just a really cool community feel.
When we saw this house, as scary as it was, we knew it was the house just based on coming into the neighborhood and feeling so welcomed.
And the other interesting thing is about the folks that live in Woodlawn, the majority of them are very passionate about living here.
It's just a very outgoing and nice community.
So the one thing that I would like to lift up and make sure that everybody hears is that there's two Child's Parks. There's the Child's Park that you hear about and that you read about, but then there's my Child's Park. The parameters of Child's Park include 34th Street South to 49th Street, and then 18th Avenue to 5th Avenue South. And that's the Child's Park neighborhood, but the greater Child's Park area actually covers about 3 neighborhoods. It goes to about 1st Avenue to around 30th Avenue South.
I believe through the YMCA, the library, and the Rattlers organization has become very instrumental in helping our youth and children become very productive adults.
The Rattler program into a GAP program that's designed to engage the community, to build family and community and crime prevention by keeping the kids engaged in youth activities.
I think the emphasis for developing youth in Child's Park arises from some statistics that we received, is that Child's Park had the highest concentration of youth in the city of St. Petersburg.
What we promote is family and community. So what we're trying to instill in them with the program is that we are one big family.
Because a lot of the initiatives and things are always focused, they're heavy focused on programming, or some type of, regimen or awareness piece or a pledge or something else. And we felt that it was important to just allow them to have a space to just come and have fun.
We're solely manned by volunteers, and we let them know that too. So we want them to come back and be volunteers, so the torch is just passed on, so we all learning from one another.
They're not just focused on the athletic aspect of it, but they also focus on youth development. So they have a tutoring program that they do.
And with the YMCA, you have the Rattlers and you have the other programs that's offered. When kids get out of school, they have a place to go. They have the library there.
The STREAM Club stands for Science, Technology, Reading, Engineering, Arts, and Math. We meet every Friday afternoon at the Child's Park Library. It's kind of an extra opportunity for them to get some exposure to topics they might not know about or might have heard in school and didn't quite stick. We just give them opportunities to have different kinds of experiences and hands-on experiences at that.
The youth have a place to go and children have a place to come daily. Matter of fact, that's a great thing to help kids get off the street and have a place to go, a safe haven you might call it.
One of my brothers, when we first organized this, he said, we're helping to create their back in the day. And I think that's important because, you know, all of us have our back in the day, and I remember back in the day when we used to do that. So our responsibility as the adults now is to help create the back in the day experience for them. And what's happening today is Friday Night Done Right, an event that we created to create a safe space for children to come on Friday nights so they can be free to be kids. Sometimes you just want to remember when you went to the pool and they let you in for free, you know, and that was it. And that's why I think it's important to help create those type of memories as well.
The Child's Park neighborhood, if anyone would ask about it, I would state that it was often misunderstood.
So I'll encourage people to come and see for themselves. More to Child Park that I've seen more positive in Child Park than I have seen negative.
And my Child's Park encompasses everything that we described today, and I hope that you will gravitate towards that and balance that once you hear the other stories and the other narratives that come out about the neighborhood. I'm Brother John Muhammad, your council member for District 7, where you can spot one of our most recognizable landmarks in the district, the Dream Big, Be Big mural. If those destinations weren't enough, we also have the Skyway Trail and the Pinellas Trail, offering car-free mobility throughout the district and connecting to other parts of the city of St. Petersburg. If history and culture is what you seek, then this district is also rich with options. From the Dr. Carter G. Woodson African American Museum, a stroll along the African American Heritage Trail, or a visit to the historic Manhattan Casino. Our local businesses shine in the district. Local shops and good food can be found throughout, including the Deuces Live Main Street and the 16th Street Business District. District 7's locations within St. Pete is also close proximity to just about everything, whether you're looking for access to downtown or the waterfront on the east, or the Gulf beaches to the west. There's a lot that I can say about what I love about representing this district, but what it really comes down to is the people who live here, the people who work here, and the rich history of resilience, all due to a community that has overcome barriers to progress time and time again.
My name is Catherine Washington, and I'm the first Black female firefighter for the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, and I'm very proud to be that and hold that title. A trailblazer is a person, and they go out and they do something that is mostly done by one gender, and they pierce that and they make something out of it that redistributed what people think of each other. I always wanted to kind of do what I call dangerous work. Something that somebody else didn't want to do, you know. So when my sister said, hey, they hired, so I said, I want to go for the fire department. And I went. In this world, for me to be a firefighter, it was the most unique thing that I could ever think to be. Me being in the Army Reserve gave me a step up to think I could do way more things. I could lift the weights, I could come out of the building out of a window just like the man did, and that gave me the chance to do it. We used to have the Martin Luther King parade. One time, I didn't want to be in the parade. I wanted to see the parade. Well, I had these 3 African-American older females that I knew knock on my door and say to me, "You do not miss another parade as long as you're on this department, because we have young girls out here who need to see you and know that they can aspire to be what you are. So don't be standing over here in the crowd with us. You be out there walking with them fellas." If I could say something to kids who think they can't aspire to be this because they have problems and they think those problems hold them down, don't let what you think you hold you back. Aspire to be what you want to be in spite of that. And then you can see yourself being somebody else.
Located in the heart of the city is the famous Al Lang Field, where every winter great names in baseball appear to limber up their muscles in St. Petersburg sunshine. This modern stadium was recently dedicated to Al Lang, St. Petersburg's ambassador to the baseball world.
For generations, St. Petersburg has been more than a home to the game of baseball. It's been a sanctuary, a symbol of our collective spirit. The crack of the wooden bat is just as much a symbol of St. Pete as sunshine and brown pelicans.
Whether you're a big league baseball player or just a fan who likes to watch the big boys in action, you'll find that a cordial welcome awaits you when you come to St. Petersburg.
Spring training, Al Lang Stadium, Hall of Fame players, Negro League pioneers, and hometown heroes, all part of what makes St. Pete whole. Elements that eventually lead to our own hometown team.
That Major League Baseball has voted 28-0 to award expansion franchises to Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Phoenix, Arizona.
And now we stand at a fork in the road, the dawn of a new era of baseball in St. Petersburg, and a lot riding on its success.
They're more than baseball, they are community. Without the Rays in the community, where would we be?
Tampa Bay Rays should stay in St. Pete. They're a huge part of the Canadian culture. Go Rays!
It's a family gathering. It's a ministry where you gather together and love on people.
Girls like us love the Rays.
It's part of our community. It's something that can do. It's fun.
The Rays are St. Pete.
This project extends beyond a new world-class baseball stadium, beyond the housing opportunities for all, beyond significant cultural benefits, and beyond a district destination for residents and visitors. Baseball is who we are. Let's embark on this journey collectively, ensuring that as our skyline evolves, the spirit of St. Petersburg remains eternally vibrant.
I came to printmaking actually as a writer. I was getting my creative writing degree from Florida State. I took a class that was called Book Structures because I was really interested in the idea of self-publishing and just discovered a whole world of this kind of like tactile, experimental, hands-on medium that I wasn't really aware existed before. So we do two types of printmaking here, letterpress printing and risograph printing. It looks like a copy machine, but it actually functions like screen printing where you're layering colors one at a time. So it's color separated. It's really great to have the opportunity to be out at different markets and events to sell our work. Since we don't have really a retail space, it's our opportunity to get our work out there and also be there to kind of tell folks about the process. And there's kind of this excitement when they pick up this card and you can tell that a hand made it. It's a small but mighty, kind of like print-loving community here in St. Pete. We've been able to connect with everyone from local bookstores to local authors and poets that are interested in publishing their own work and making zines, to just art education groups. We're able to kind of connect with all different types of people and excite them about this process. And then this lever here, you press it with your thumb. We're really grateful to have such a supportive community here in St. Pete for local businesses. People get really excited at events, and there's all these fun little mom and pop shops and artists selling their work, things that you can't find in other cities, right? It makes St. Pete very unique. We've been able to make a lot of great connections and collaborations with our fellow local businesses.
Today we're celebrating the grand opening of our Sunken Gardens History Center, which is housed in the restored original 1940s entrance building to Turner's Sunken Gardens, one of Florida's last remaining roadside attractions.
Since 1935, Sunken Gardens has been a landmark in St. Petersburg, providing a beautiful oasis in our busy city, a place to relax, enjoy nature, and the joy of gardening. What a great decision this was 20 years ago, because as we all know, St. Pete's become a lot more busy in the last 20 years. And so this is quite an oasis for us to have. The city purchased Sunken Gardens in 1999, and thanks to an excellent staff, volunteers, and a really dynamic foundation, today the Gardens is a must-see experience for residents and visitors alike. The historical assets of our city must be preserved and maintained. And that's why this History Center is so important. It honors our past and the early pioneers who paved the way for the Sunken Gardens of today.
Behind me is our new History Center, which we're so excited to have and present to you. And you'll notice in the window we have our founder, George Turner Sr., just as he was in 1940. The Gardens is really a family story. It's a story about the Turners that started with George Sr. and then continued through 3 generations. Today, all of you are part of Sunken Gardens history. All of you are here for this historic moment as Sunken Gardens continues to make history.
This was originally the entrance in 1940. Was about 4 years after they decided to make a go of having an attraction as opposed to selling fruits and vegetables. Over the years, it changed usage. When I was a girl, it was what we called the drink stand. More recently, it's been used as an overnight birdhouse to keep the birds safe. But now it's our new History Center. To see my grandfather in the window, it's icing on the cake. It's like he's there overseeing his garden.
St. Petersburg citizens in 1999 voted to tax themselves to save Sunken Gardens. That almost never happens. So my hope is that people understand the importance of historic sites like this, historic gardens, historic places that really give Florida its character. They're the reason that we want to live here. We need to preserve them, and I really hope people fall in love with it all the more and understand the importance of preserving it.
Dear reader, you are loved, more than you know.
Keep smiling and shining and being who you are.
are.
The world is lucky to have you.
Happy Pride to you. Celebrate like you should.
Life would be dull without you in it.
Keep shining bright.
Sunshine face.
You are so loved. Do not let anyone ever tell you different.
St. Pete loves you. We need you. We appreciate you. Thank you for being you.
You are beautiful just as you are, and you make our city more beautiful because you are a part of it.
You make the world more colorful.
You make the world brighter.
Never give up.
You are loved for exactly
who you are. I promise.
The world needs you in it.
On the road, there are no second chances. When you're behind the wheel, nothing is more important than staying focused on the road. Your life and the lives of others are at risk. Put the phone away. It can wait. Don't drive distracted.
Hey, that's my house, and this is my ASMR video about water conservation. I use water wisely. Ever have a drippy sink? You should fix it to not waste water, and also not to go crazy with that dripping noise. Look there, that's my automatic shut-off hose attachment. Super water conservative. Even when nature calls, I call nature and I say, "Hi, I'm conserving water with my high efficiency tank." Okay, bye. Oh, hey, that's me. Just using my high efficiency washer. Just listen to the sounds of water being conserved. Go to this website to learn more, St. Pete, and do what you can for water conservation.
The culture of St. Pete, when I arrived in '97, I like saying it was nascent. It was percolating under the ground, but there were no coffee shops. There wasn't the Globe coffee shop that Joylyn Schilke created. There was no place for people to hang to say, I've experienced this, now let me talk about it over a cup of Joe. And, but it was nascent. And I also think there were a lot of creative people in St. Petersburg who were kind of doing their own thing, and we just, some say a catalyst, but I think it's kind of a centrifuge where this goes in, 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 and then you go, and so I think we primarily just put a mirror up to the community and say, where y'all at? And that's how we came to be. I know we initially talked about it as being a theater, but that was the least of what we were going to do insofar as we knew that we wanted a place for the community to come together without hurt, harm, or danger, and, speak on or about or for all sorts of things. And we had to find out what those things were, so.
Well, I can say that when I got here in 2008, because a lot of people don't know, that my first performance in St. Pete was here. This was the place to be. Everybody was talking about the studio. They wanted to work at the studio. They wanted to be at the studio. The community is the reason why it succeeds, and we get to feed the community. So it's a cycle, right? It's synergetic. It's and everybody needs to feel like they have a home.
It's a housing development that we can all be proud of.
We never want to lose that fundamental focus on inclusion for every part of St. Petersburg.
We're also allocating about $1.2 million to address food insecurity.
Our Rays are here to stay.
At the end of the day, we all do better when we all can participate.
Momentum begins with one single motion forward, methodically. The intentional motion forward becomes real, tangible, meaningful, because progress matters.
We are focused on inclusive progress, and as we see the rapid development in St. Petersburg and Pinellas County, we want to make sure that every citizen has an opportunity to be a part of that. And workforce development means preparing our citizens to take advantage of those opportunities that are coming, whether it's through job training, through soft skill development, or other support, just to make sure that everyone can connect to the jobs that are coming. We are implementing a MWBE program, Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program, that will carve out certain parts of our city business for those minority and women-owned businesses. We're celebrating the opening of the Legacy Senior Apartments here at Jordan Park, 60 senior apartments, as well as the redevelopment of over 200 affordable apartments right next door.
In the city of St. Petersburg, we put small businesses first because when they're competing and thriving, they're the heart of a healthy, vibrant, and diverse community that we all love. Today, we take a significant step towards honoring the promises made to the gas plant community some 40 years ago. This is what progress looks like, and our Rays are here to stay.
Now we stand up on a solid foundation of progress. We see the possibilities that lie ahead, and without hesitation, we will proceed.
I'm very grateful for the opportunity that the city of St. Pete has provided for me, knowing I can rely on the city when I need it, especially since I'm already a city employee.
We almost lost everything during COVID. Without the grant money, I think many of us would have closed our doors.
Mayor Welch, he always say, we are St. Pete. You're definitely feeling like you are a part of that we when you receive that microfund grant program to help your business.
I want to give a huge thanks to the City of St. Petersburg, not only for funding our grants, but for providing educational resources through the St. Pete Greenhouse to help us grow our small businesses. It's nice to live in a city that cares about its people.
1, 2, 3.
We will proceed for a brighter future because progress is paramount, because we are St. Pete.
I started this company almost 20 years ago out of my parents' garage. Growing year after year after year, you eventually, can grow out of a garage space really quickly. Scooter Cardoza with Trinity Graphics. I'm the owner here, and we do screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products. One of my long-term goals was to have a brick and mortar space. It took us a little over 12 years, but we got this space. Talk about a, kind of like a life-changing moment. We print lots and lots and lots of t-shirts. And then as far as like on the embroidery side, anything you can think of, we can accomplish with putting a logo or a brand on. One of the aspects of screen printing is reclaiming the screens, so you can basically reuse the screen over and over and over and over again. We had about 150 of the wood frames, and thought it would be really cool to do a screen wall. So each screen has some sort of sentimental, meaning behind it. We love what we do, so we're just going to continue to put out, a great product that we stand behind. It's really cool to have a team that believes and has the same passion and will, go the extra mile to do whatever it takes to get the job done. There's been a big push for keeping St. Pete local. It's been amazing to feel that love from the community and local businesses that will allow us to thrive in the community for another 20 years.
District 1 is located west of 49th Street North, from 7th Avenue South to 40th Avenue North. It's where the city meets Bogosiega Bay. I'm Councilmember Copley Gertis, your representative for District 1. Standing here by the baseball fields at Northwest Park has a special meaning to me. This is the park where I spent my childhood racing in the pool, playing youth baseball growing up, and where countless residents have enjoyed all kinds of outdoor activities. Northwest Park is also the home to the J.W. Cate Rec Center. District 1 is filled with an abundance of beautiful large parks. Residents can enjoy a run around Walter Fuller Park, the boardwalk's water views from Abercrombie Park, or a round of frisbee golf at Azalea Park. Swimming pools, dog parks, walking trails, outdoor gym facilities, and more serve whatever you seek this side of town. I love that the neighborhoods surrounding the parks, such as Jungle Prada and Jungle Terrace, inherit the lush landscape and wildlife we love within the park system. As if these parks aren't enough to keep you in touch with nature, some of the best beaches in the world are a quick drive or a bike ride away. The proximity between the Gulf beaches and downtown St. Pete make this part of St. Pete one of a kind. This side of St. Petersburg has become a mecca for local shops and restaurants like Alessia, Two Graces, the Wheelhouse, and the Nosh Pit. With long-standing institutions like St. Pete College, St. Pete Catholic High School, and Admiral Farragut all help support the diverse culture throughout District 1. There's no denying the vibrant display of energy, nature, neighborhoods, and great local businesses when you spend a little time in District 1.
The American Rescue Plan Act provides relief funds to governments negatively affected by COVID-19. The City of St. Petersburg has received about $45 million in the ARPA funds for investment and have identified key projects that will directly impact St. Pete residents, focusing 75% of funds on affordable housing and support, and 25% of funds on health and social equity efforts. These projects also fall within Mayor Ken Welsh's 5 pillars of progress: housing opportunities for all, neighborhood health and safety, equitable development, arts and business opportunities, education and youth opportunities, environment, infrastructure, and resilience. So, what happens next? We plan to spend ARPA funds in the following categories: $34 million for housing affordability and support, and $11 million for health and social equity. Here's a closer look at the plan. To address the affordable housing crisis in the city, 75% of the ARPA funds will be allocated to affordable housing and support. The city received the Housing Champion Award from the Florida Housing Coalition, which recognizes the city for dedicating the highest percentage of COVID-19 state and local fiscal recovery funds from the ARPA to affordable housing. What might that housing assistance look like? Financial assistance toward things like new housing units, shelters for families in need, and additional supportive services. With the rest of the funds, the plan addresses mental health challenges and food insecurity. 25% of the ARPA funds will be used to develop projects that treat root causes of these conditions and situations. Things like food security programs, mental health counseling, youth development and nonprofit funding, and other neighborhood services. For more information about the city's use of ARPA funds, visit stpete.org/ARPA.
Hey guys, Ken Welch, Mayor of St. Petersburg. Now I'm with Dex Fabian, the publisher of I Love the Burg. Thank you for being here with us on our Sunrunner tour. Tell us how this changes life in St. Petersburg.
Coming from New York, it's one of the things I miss was mass transit. And I think having something like the Sunrunner now actually happening in St. Pete after so long, it's a game changer. Riding it today got us from point A to point B so much faster. Don't have to worry about parking. It just makes life so much easier for locals and even tourists.
And I think it helps us to change the culture. We really don't have a transit culture here.
Yeah, so I think this is a good starting point for more developments in our mass transit system.
Thank you for being with us, Dex. We'll talk to you next time on our Sunrunner tour.
My name is William Clifton. I work at the tire shop for the city of St. Petersburg. I'm a tire and wheel specialist. My general responsibilities are to make sure everything rolls. We just make sure everybody's rolling safe. We deal with garbage trucks, fire department, wheelbarrows, forklifts. We pretty much deal with anything that has a tire. Some days it's 10, 20, then some days we're just non-stop. I know there's over 100 sanitation trucks. I think there's roughly 300 police vehicles, upwards of 1,000 or better. We have the big loaders. I think that's probably the heaviest, the biggest tire. Smallest, I've worked on probably forklift tires, the rear tires on a forklift, or wheelbarrow tires. I love the work. The work is fun. I mean, I like working with my hands. I feel like the tire shop is an integral part in the city because without us, nothing rolls. No fire truck, no police department, no water department, no tractors, no backhoes. All that comes to us. Well, right before Hurricane Irma came here last year, we were the last group of people out of the compound, and we were the first people in the compound back to work. We got somebody that needs tires right away. You can have all the running vehicles you want, but without tires, they're going nowhere.
The Pinellas Trail is probably the best way I've found to get all over the county without worrying about traffic or my pace. it's just a way to get around and have fun.
So in the spring, say on a weekend, on a Sunday, you'd find lots of folks out just walking, biking, just really enjoying the weather.
So the trail starts downtown by the water, and it goes all the way to Tarpon Springs, if I'm not mistaken. And I like it because it kind of cuts back behind the neighborhoods. There's murals, there's tree coverage, and it just kind of winds through the most beautiful parts of the city.
It's an awesome engineering feat, and it dissects the middle of an urban city, and at the same time, you feel like you're off to yourself. You're a little bit secluded, ample places for you to run, ride, and even collect your thoughts.
It's pretty quiet and peaceful. Quiet in the sense that there's typically during the day a lot of users on the trail, so you're never by yourself, but everybody's kind of in their own world, so it's not a lot of noise.
We were looking for a place that would be a hub for a healthy and active community, and one of the big things we wanted here was to have a place where people could run and walk right near our location. Pinellas Trail, which is right behind our facility, turned out to be the perfect location.
We do lots of events here at the store. We do probably about 100 free community group runs from here where we're using the trail.
Have a great walk, have a great run, guys.
The running community in St. Pete is so supportive and so encouraging of all of the runners, no matter your pace. Everybody's just encouraging you along the way. And so when I went to my first group run, I invited my mom to come and do an evening walk with me, and that became part of our weekly routine, particularly in the spring.
We do 2 runs a week, Monday and Thursdays, where we're running on the trail. So that's 100 times every year right there that we're out running on the trail with a group of people.
I retired from Pinellas County in urban planning, and so I was involved in the initial planning for the Pinellas Trail. We saw it as a means of providing a facility that could be used not just for recreation, but health-related benefits as we deal with obesity and other issues. So our planning was from the perspective of an alternative to on-road facilities.
So a lot of times here in the store, we encourage people, just go out there and see what happens. Don't have any set expectation for how far you're going to go, how fast you're going to go. Just get on the trail and have fun.
The scenery is probably why I started using the trail as much as I did. The murals, number one, are my absolute favorite thing, and they're constantly changing.
Not far from here, it's called Stonehenge Park. They have some beautiful murals painted on the bridges.
Stonehenge Park is like one of those really cool wonders of art, and it's just right here. Nobody knows about it.
So you'll have a cool blend between really fun art, awesome plants life. There's all sorts of berries and things growing I didn't know about back there. You learn a little bit more every time you go. Good morning. I love to specialize.
When I was working still, we did surveys along the trail, and on any given weekday, we found about 1/3 of the users were using it as a commute alternative.
If you've never tried the Pinellas Trail, I urge you to do so. You can walk it, you can run it, you can rent a bike at just about every few miles. You'll find a bike shop that's got bikes for rent.
And we've had people come in and verbalize like their thanks, but also like you just see them out there and they just look radiant. They look awesome and healthy, happy, and you can tell that they're glad they're doing what they're doing. We're just appreciative that we had a part in their success.
Trails give me the opportunity to really get out there and feel safe. There's bike lanes in some places, but to have a fully dedicated place, that helps a lot. It's more than just a long stretch of pavement, it's a community.
The trail is a wonder that brings everybody together.
PCCA, Gibbs High, was high school that was invented because initially Black people didn't go much beyond the 6th or 7th grade. And they created it. And then they put this performing arts magnet there. And I remember the first time I went there, just the art in the hallways that was from students, very sophisticated. And I thought, who wouldn't want a job there? teaching motivated, talented young people. And obviously you were called because you taught. How long did you teach at Gibbs?
I believe I taught for 9 years, 8 or 9 years. Yeah, a long time. I think teaching at PCCA for those years made me a better artist. Mm-hmm. Working with young artists and inspiring young artists. But beyond the inspiration, teaching them how to coexist as artists in the community. They did not seek artists who were teachers. First, you didn't have to have a teaching degree to work in the magnet.
I didn't know that.
No, they wanted you to be an artist first. So you came with your artist degree or your art, and then from there, once you were inside, because I didn't have a teaching degree, once you were inside, once you got hired, then they put you through, Pinellas County School District has a phenomenal program so that you could get your teaching license. They wanted all of their educators to be working in the community so that their students had the opportunity to network and with the community members so that it strengthens the school and it also strengthens the community. And I think that was very important. I think it's a pivotal part of the program. I think it's a thing that makes it successful. And then not just the community as in St. Pete or the Southeast region, but our national community too. Because so many of our artists, visual and performing artists, have gone on to do great things. Broadway, LA, and beyond, tours, all those things, yeah.
Pablo Mardones. I'm the owner of the Chrome Factory here in St. Pete.
I'm Angie Gray. I am the assistant right-hand woman of Pablo.
Yeah. Me and my friend Felipe, we opened this store together. We had this idea that we were kind of tired working like our corporate jobs, you know, although life was very like stable and all that, we wanted just to have something like of our own and kind of like work a little bit more like the life-work balance, you know, in our favor. So we decided to open a restaurant. We are in 57, the corner of 57 and Central. So like we are 1 block away from the Sunrunner, which is pretty cool too. Like before we open, like we didn't know this was gonna happen. We have a stop right here, like less than a block away, and so we are very close to the beach, but not too far from downtown.
I actually quit my corporate job and wanted something more like local, family-friendly, work-life balance, as you said. I submitted my resume to the Crumb Factory, and not even 10 minutes later, Pablo got back to me and was like, "Hey, come in for an interview."
We produce everything here in-house, like...
And you can watch us do it.
Yeah.
People just enjoy coming here and like being part of like this little family local restaurant.
I think we have been very well received.
It's really like kind of laid back. It's not like your stereotypical coffee shop where like people come to work or people come to like sit on their computers all day. Like we do have some customers that do that, but for the most part, everyone's here like they want to socialize. We get a lot of regulars, and yeah, like everyone loves bread, everyone loves pastries, so yeah, it's great. I've even been out and about in St. Pete, and people have been talking about like the Crumb Factory, and I'm like, I work there. Like, like this is so exciting.
That's one of my goals. Like I want to be a place that people associate the Crumb Factory with St. Pete. You know, so it's definitely important for us to be really part of the city.
Everybody wants to know what the future holds for 620. And I'd have to say, first and foremost, my job and my duty is to make sure that we continue to reflect the entire community. I think that what I am introducing to the world is how I see art and the stories in which I want to celebrate in the community. And so what we do will probably remain the same. How we do it